All right, welcome to the latest episode. In this episode, we
Yay!
discuss, sadly, not sadly, because you know what, I'm enjoying the space at the moment. We discuss AI, but
Oh yeah.
specifically, how could we utilize AI or AI workflows to basically automate or embed some more of the quality controls or the initiatives that we do as part of a wider quality engineering team
hmm
into that life cycle? Is it possible? How would it look? Would it work? Would it make more problems? Listen and find out.
Yeah, and if you do find out, come back and tell us.
Absolutely. Yeah. We don't know. We just rambled. But you let us know. You tell us if it helps. Enjoy. Everybody, and welcome to the Vernon and Richard show. Hello.
Yay!
Question,
Whoop
Vernon.
whoop.
Do we get the football out the way first?
Go on.
Or do we get straight into testing topics? So I asking this question for the listeners because the football
Oh
season
yeah,
has started again. So
mate. All I want to do say for the first time ever is,
uh,
"Hey, Rich."
I accept it.
Completely,
I accept it. I
completely forgot.
accept it. It's fine. I was quite,
uh,
I was quite pleased. I was quite pleased
I
with how
don't
we
want to
played.
talk
So
about.
I'll take the hay, but I'm not depressed as I could have been. So
This is what I saw
yeah,
from a lot of other Man United
yeah.
podcasters and YouTubers they're all quite satisfied with the performance in a lot of ways,
We
but
had
the
shots
result
on
was
goal.
trash.
We actually had
But
shots
in
on
the
goal.
in
Anyway, go on, carry on.
well, I was going to say, in the spirit of
Yeah, good
not
shout, good shout.
losing any listeners from Newcastle, I don't want to talk about football right now because I'm gonna be talking about transfers and all kinds of mad
Well,
stuff, and then it's going to get weird. And plus,
what
our
we are
actual
going to talk
listeners
about then
don't want to
is
hear it. So,
the impact that AI. Yes, with the AI buzzword has come back out. I'm sorry, but the impact that AI may or may not have on quality or quality engineering. Because I've been pondering some
yeah.
thoughts,
So,
and I need to mumble them out in some order and see what happens.
I was going to say,
So
so, because reasons, because life, we
summer.
haven't recorded for a while, and as usual, yeah, as usual, when we don't catch up as frequently as we like, one or both of us has some crazy harebrained idea or theory or hypothesis, and Rich has one that he attempted to share with me pre-recording. I didn't quite get
Ah,
what he was saying,
let's
so we're
try.
going to explore it now, and hopefully it will be interesting. So yeah, what's your idea, man? Let's share it, and then we'll dig some more into it.
So I was reflecting the other day on the impact that some of this new technology may have on some roles and some companies, right? Not every company wants AI or will intend to
Mm-hmm.
use AI, and that's fine. But there is a lot of companies, fixated on
Mm,
it and obsessed with it, and it's clearly where a lot of the money is at the moment, right? And I work for a consultancy, so
mm,
it tends to be that you offer what companies are wanting to pay for, right? So I'm currently in a world of a lot of AI,
yeah, yeah,
and
valid.
at my company at Slalom, there's a lot of cool like POCs going on. There's lots of different areas experimenting with tooling, and we're seeing some interesting stuff come out.
Mm,
And what it got me thinking was, and how I'm trying to tie this into quality, and I'm going to shift left because we like to talk about shifting left, right? I'm going to shift left to like a product owner or solution owner, right? So traditionally, they have a conversation with the customer, right? Maybe it's a workshop or two. Usually, again, I'm going to use the word
mm,
usually a lot, right? I know everyone builds software different, but at the
mhm,
start, it tends to be that it's mainly just a product owner talking to the customer, right? Or some product related role. And they're
mm,
having conversations about their
mhm,
challenges, their needs, their problems. And the product owner or BA takes all that insight and basically produces a bunch of, you know, requirements, right? Which let's say end up as Jira tickets, for
mhm,
example. Now, in the past, or like more traditionally, that's quite a linear job, right? All the tickets get written and product owners, review the tickets as they write them sometimes, right? And that works flawlessly, right? But it doesn't work flawlessly because as soon as we all get into our planning sessions, they put the ticket on the board, and testers are great at this, but even developers do it too. You get asked the question, does everyone understand this ticket? And then you get, I ain't got a clue what that ticket is about, right? Not got a clue. So
Yeah, yeah. Hmm.
we know that that process has its limitations. Otherwise, we wouldn't find these issues. And also, if you want to go back to the right hand side, a lot of issues and bugs we find typically, usually, you can be traced back to a badly written requirement or a misinterpretation of a requirement. And what it got me thinking in that
Yeah.
space, and talk about quality engineering, right? And we can embed quality at every part of the process. If the product owner is now recording their conversations with the customer, they are using something like Copilot to capture the
Yeah.
transcript. They're feeding that transcript into an LLM to
Hmm.
ask it to try and make sense of it, whilst at the same time doing the steps they would
Hmm.
normally do. So I'm not saying fully commit to the vibe
Hmm.
product owner in, right? I'm saying alongside,
Vibe product ownership.
they've got this AI's tooling doing it. Could be agentic workflows, could just be an LLM, and they're doing it themselves. But now
Hmm.
they can also give their tickets to the LLM and say, what do you think of this ticket? Or what do you think this requirement is? So what I'm trying to say is it's becoming
Hmm.
easier for someone like a product owner to do a lot of testing quality style tasks up front before it gets to other people that might do some of that testing. So in a way, is it potentially becoming easier to embed quality or gateways into parts of this process? And when I told you this before we pressed record, you laughed at me, right? Because my one very subtle difference is if they're doing their job well. So if they're just clicking transcript to Jira tickets, go, here you go, team, here's some tickets. Obviously, that's carnage, right? Quality is going to plummet. But if it's a serious product owner who
Yeah.
values the craft, there is definitely going to be ways that they can utilize AI to embed some of that quality gateway. Again, standards of writing
Hmm.
tickets. We've all seen those couple of tickets that end up being chucked in that are not written like the other tickets, right? There's no acceptance criteria. There's the title's rubbish. There's no stakeholder. Whatever it is that you have in your process, you could code that into an agent now and literally have it reject
Hmm.
it almost instantly and send it back to the person. You could do all sorts.
Was talking
So
about that
that's
the
my
other day, actually.
hypothesis, and that's just a product owner example. Imagine data people doing the same software, and so software engineering is another great one. And I don't want to go too much on a tangent before I let you, share some thoughts too. But vibe coding, again, traditionally, I'm generalizing. Let's say a software engineer gets a feature, they start bashing keys, right? They're writing some code, adding a couple of functions, got a few changes going in, right? I think this is going to work now. A good dev will run it locally and make sure it works. And then they raise their PR, and then it gets reviewed at the PR stage, right? So, yes, there's cycles of testing going on, and they
Hmm.
could write some unit tests as well. But let's say that person's vibing, and again, a skilled person vibing, utilizing the tools in a good way. They go, they have to succinctly write the problem down as their first step
Hmm.
now to make an LLM understand their problem space. So that's forcing them to process what
Uh-huh.
it is they're trying to build. Then they get some code back, and then they're analyzing
Uh-huh.
that code, looking at it, reviewing it almost instantly now, and going, "No, that's not
Yeah.
quite right. I prefer A." And then they're
Yeah.
thinking about this as they're trying to say it to an LLM, which is why I don't like the idea that people think it's going to be so much faster, because what I think is it slows you down to do a lot of that thinking and testing and quality related tasks as you're talking to this agent
Yeah.
that wouldn't happen if you were
Mhm.
just coding on your own, apart from the odd rubber duck
Mhm.
situation, right? But which is definitely no way near as structured
Mm.
as,
Mhm.
I know vibe coding doesn't sound structured, right? But there's structured ways of doing it. So um, if you're there, you're getting that code back, you're reviewing it, you're tweaking it, You're adding in your own code where it makes sense to write code from scratch. We don't want to sit there just telling AI to generate code all day. That's not a good way of doing vibing. So there now, again, testing is quicker. So maybe, I'm a dev who hates writing unit tests. Hey, Copilot, write me some unit tests. Boom, got some unit tests. Are they good tests? Don't know. But is it becoming easier for them to do some of that quality work that we've been pushing for so long, that we say only the best developers do? The unicorn developers are the only ones that care about this. Or the highly, we can all name some devs that we love to work with, right? Because they do all these things. Is it easier for them to do some of this stuff now? And will that improve quality? Or will they just abuse these tools and quality will plummet? I don't know. Maybe both. But anyway, that's my thought. It feels with good practice, good structure, good guidance, good governance, it feels like it should be better or could be better. Stunned him into silence.
I am not sure what. Yeah, I'm not sure what the bloody hell I think about that. It almost. So I think you said something along the lines of these tools might help us to embed quality into the process more by
Pretty
virtue of
much is
how they
what I'm
work.
thinking,
Is
yeah.
that?
And I don't mean like, go on.
I don't know.
Well, I was just going to
No,
say, I
you
don't
go on,
mean
finish your
like
thought.
just standard like LLM stuff will be helpful, but I'm also thinking more custom tailored AI solutions, workflows that are very contextual to your company that you've built to, get some of this support from an AI. Like, at your company, right, what a good ticket looks like, right? What a good requirement is. And someone could
Mm-hmm,
codify that. In the past, we would make a checklist,
mm-hmm,
right? And we would, you'd try and get your PO to tick
mm-hmm,
the checklist before passing it into the next step of the workflow. Well, now you could literally have an AI
mm-hmm,
review that ticket with your requirements coded into it and fill in the gaps where it wants to,
mm-hmm.
if you want it to do that, or flag it to the team in Slack or something to say this ticket's failed the quality gateway. But how many of us have put automated testing onto a Jira ticket before? That's not been a thing. You could have done it, but no one did because you
Mm-hmm.
couldn't. You can't make sense of the
Mm-hmm.
words. Whereas now, and I'm not saying the tools are brilliant, but the tools can make sense of the words. The LLMs literally can process words and make sense of them. So you could theoretically do that now.
Oh, so you mean we have more of an opportunity to
Make the
make the
work
work
visible,
visible.
automate some of these quality gates, quality standards, um, and yeah, utilize this new technology to potentially embed quality and automated tests into the processes and not in a way that an LLM is just saying your ticket's
But what?
crap, but in a way where we codify our own rules, what good looks like, into our own, not into our own LLM, right, but into our prompts, into our context, and have. And again, I'm not saying that the LLM says no, go away, we stop everything. I'm just saying it's another way of having a little nudge to say this ticket is not meeting the standards. You can carry on if you want to, or you can improve the ticket because we know what bad tickets lead to.
I don't know if that, because to me this is a matter of are we talking about skill acquisition of the team? Are we talking about fostering intrinsic motivation again at the team level for these things? Or are we just talking about how the tool is going to take over the
So
responsibility of the
definitely not
thing
the latter.
for us? Because the way you describe it, it sounds like to me, or it sounds like to me, my one of the constant bugbears of people in quality engineering roles and testing roles of all flavors and kinds is shifting left, is trying to persuade, encourage, motivate, sell, influence, market. Do you know what I mean? Testing and quality to a bunch of people who, up until this point, may not have valued it in the same way as we may have done. But if you bring in this tool, you could argue it just makes it easy for them to not care or to not get better at it, because you can just say, well, we've got, AI, Vern and Rich are going to take care of it for us. So we can still focus on coding of the old school or vibe flavor. It doesn't really matter. Maybe, I don't know, but they won't have to actually sit there and say, "Oh, how am I going to test this?" It's more going to be like, "Let me just create something so that AI, Vern and Rich can tell me whether it's any
I
good
don't,
or
I
not."
don't, I definitely don't think I'm.
Do you know
I'm
what I mean?
definitely not going down the replacement route. Um, I'm thinking more of a lot of quality controls or quality gates or whatever term people like have had to be very
Mm,
checklisty, very trusty, very you know, you expect people to do them, right? But we know people don't. So I'm saying there's an option
mm,
there for the tooling. But again, with this tooling,
yeah,
for example, like there's a lot of um like support agent tools coming out, right? If you codified in a doc or a PDF your standards for a Jira ticket, examples of good Jira tickets, and whatever else
mm,
information you think is relevant, right?
yeah,
You codified that and fed it into an LLM as
yeah,
training data. You would then have a way of basically testing your tickets.
mm,
And in a way, that could help junior product owners learn, because the ticket would then, it would
yeah,
tell you that this is a bad ticket for reasons A, B, and C. And it's not made up those reasons. It's got them from your data that you've given it, where you've said, this is a bad example of a title. This is a good example of a title. This is this. This is that. So in a way, it could help the person improve. So it could help them. It's definitely not saying it's replacing them. I'm not expecting. I don't want to be in. I don't want to be in a team where we upload a transcript and say generate Jira tickets and we start working on them. Because yes, you could build that, but I don't. I wouldn't want that. That's dehumanizing a really important part of the process. um,
okay,
but you could codify what a good ticket
okay,
looks like. You could have agents critique your tickets at the time of committing them. You could have agent help you write the tickets. But again, I want to stress that I'm talking about helping. The task is still that the human's task is to produce these tickets, but the tooling now is more powerful to help us do a good job early on
mm,
and not wait for that human in the loop later on. We still want that step later on. We're still
mm,
expecting people to be in planning and review tickets. But now there's a way of codifying some of those expectations and rules and what good looks
mm,
like into a tool that can review that ticket within seconds, which we've not been able to do that before, because we've not, like, every ticket's different.
mm.
You couldn't write code that says, is this a good title? Because there was no way of, you know, what words are in the title. You'd have to imagine trying to write that as an old school traditional piece of software. You couldn't. But now you can give it to an LLM and say, this is what good looks like for me. How does this title do? And it will give you an answer.
Yeah. I think I think where I'm getting stuck is, it sounds like what we're saying is, so I think the scenario you talked about was, you've got this new product manager person, and we've codified some something into the agent to kind of to give it the ability to review stories and things like this. And so we'll produce a story, AI Rich and Vern Rich, whatever, will give feedback on the quality of the story, through which the product owner will learn what good stories look like. And it's that learning loop that I'm not
Oh,
sure
it's
is
definitely
real.
real because, and I say this from someone who's using the tools, only if they want to learn, right? So, I'm not that the bit where the learning goes away is when you the The
That's
learning
what I
would
mean.
go away if you made the agent fix the ticket. So if you had the agent update the ticket to be a better title, that takes a lot of
Mm,
the learning away. If you just
mm-hmm,
have the agent go into your body of
mm-hmm,
knowledge as a company that you've created to teach it what a
mm-hmm.
good ticket looks like, and that's comprehensive. There's
Who
so
who's
that's what I meant
taught it?
by that codified knowledge, right? So you have to build some documents that explain
Yeah, I guess I'm saying who's collating the who's
that would
collating
have
the
to be an
data
initiative
to feed to the
internally, right? One
LLM
of you
to
might take, I'm pretty sure now, or
okay.
if there's not, we're definitely going to see products in the future where you can download someone else's opinion of a good Jira ticket, right? And you could feed that into your LLM. But no, I mean internally, your team of product owners or your software team sit down and agree what good looks like, and then that needs to be codified into something digestible via an LLM, which typically is the English word, right? Um, and if I was thinking of how some of the tools I've got, you would have, multiple documents. Here's why here's how to write a good title. Here's how to write a good technical requirement. Here's how to write acceptance criteria. Here's how to do whatever.
Mm,
And you feed it all into an
mm.
LLM. Then you have an agent workflow
Okay.
and you basically tell it, have a look at the title. Does it look like there's technical information in it? Review it. Does it look like this? And when you tell it to review it, it's going to go, do I know how to do that? Oh, I'll go into my, into its context rag memory status or whatever the technical term is. I don't know what it is, right? But it goes into its knowledge that it's got and it will find that document that says, this is what good looks like, and it will use it. It won't, and obviously,
Mm,
sometimes it will make shit up, right? If it's got no documents, but without going into too much of solutionizing AI tools, you can add guardrails in. You can have,
yeah,
you can literally
yeah,
add guidance to it to say, don't
correct.
ever make stuff up. Don't only read from the docs. If you can't reference a doc, don't answer. You can code all this stuff into your agents.
Mm-hmm,
Um, so that's what I mean. That document would come
mm-hmm.
from your team as a way of saying, this is what good looks like. And this is,
Yeah, because that's the thing. The learning comes from the doing, and that was not. It almost sounded like we were trying to skip that
definitely not, no.
step somehow.
And what one of the concepts we've been discussing internally is, which is really cool, is like the importance potentially of community of excellence coming back. Because, and again, I'm only hypothesizing what the future could look like. I'm not saying this is going to be it, right? But in theory, now let's take testing because we all get testing. You could train an LLM of all the test cases you've ever written and you could have your team review them all, right? Good, bad, mark them all up, right? Feed it into a massive LLM along with test strategy documents, right? You could feed it hundreds of them, thousands of them, like all sorts, test plans, anything, right? Test reports.
Yep.
And you feed it all in. And
Mm-hmm,
now you literally have your own company's testing bot to be like, hey, is this a good plan? Or is this a well written strategy? Is this a good test case? And again, it's not
yep.
going to say yes or no.
Mm-hmm,
It's not going to say, sorry, it is going to say yes or no, but it's not going to fix it for you. It's going to pull information out from your knowledge
mm-hmm.
base and suggest it to the person to help them improve it. And then the community of excellence is fun because now you have to keep that
I
up to date. Who's going to keep that training data up to date?
so that's what I was going to say. So I what it won't take companies long at all to say air quotes. All we need now is someone to keep the model up to date because the model is having the impact that we want. Assuming that you get the
Yeah,
testing that you want, or the coverage that you want, or the whatever the user story that you want, whatever the outcome is that you're looking for. It won't take organizations long to kind of say, oh, one of the risks I see is people say, oh, well, we don't need
yeah,
these people anymore because now we've got AI Vern Rich, not as handsome as the test team we used to have because it's now some robotic digital entity, but it it gets us so much of the way there that maybe we can save ourselves a few quid, and instead of having Vern and
Yeah,
Rich,
you
we'll
know,
just have Rich. But what I'm interested in understanding it, at some point, I don't know if it's part of this conversation, but what in order to create something that can do that, there's a certain set of skills that we already have, or there's a certain set of skills that we can build on top of or refine. It'd be interesting to know what they are and what they might unlock, because here's another thing that I'm thinking, right? And it's funny. I'll have to. There's a post from a chap called Rob Bowley. I hope I'm saying your name right, Rob. I met Rob in at Manchester Tech Festival a couple of years ago. He's like a CTO extraordinaire. And he had a post recently talking about in fact, I've got it in one of my tabs. Hold on. Is this one? Yes. Um he talks about typing not being the
yeah,
bottleneck, and how we might get to a point where, because now we can type, it's almost like you're saying, well, if we that is the value adding activity, and so how can we maximize for that value adding activity if we can get AI to help us with all the other stuff that isn't the value adding activity? But I think of people as well, like Alan Page, who before all of this AI shizzle hit the mainstream, would talk about his number one mission when he would go into the leadership positions he's had over the past few years is to put himself
yeah,
out of a job
yeah,
by helping the team own the
yep,
quality to such a degree that they don't
absolutely.
need him.
And again, I'm not. Go on.
But but here's the thing. If you're the kind of person that can do that, is it true that you're the kind of person that people would want to keep around from a company point of view? They kind of say, oh, well, this person knows how to make teams super efficient and, do you know what I mean, get practices embedded into teams. Surely that's somebody we want to keep around. Is that wishful thinking, or is that real? Because that's the direction my head went to when you were explaining your idea. I think now I've heard you explain it more, and I've got to ask you a few more questions. I see where you're going, and I think you're going to have a point. I think you do have a point. I think I'm excited to try it with my team, to be honest, because it's an idea that the thing that I wanted to do related to your idea was not user stories, but
Yeah,
bug triage. It's like, here's how you triage a bug. Like, you look for this information, like, you give it the context, like, you know, this is important, this is not important. This customer is important, that's not important. This area application is important, that's not important. Here's some examples of what a Sev 1 looks like. Here's the examples of Sev 2 and so on. And you go, right. You just point it at your bugs and say, please smash through these and tell us what is what. And this seems like another use case, right?
yeah.
Another example of
Right.
that
Well,
kind of thinking.
to try and unwrap, you said a lot of awesome things there, and I'm probably going to miss like addressing some of them. But like bug triage, right? It's definitely an area where AI could help. But like, think about how much context you would need or do need when you do this job
Correct.
to decide if a bug is a bug or if it's
Correct.
something else, right? So
Mm-hmm.
what I found with AI is that it's not very good when you give it a large task, right? So if you say triage this bug, it's not going to do the best job. But if you designed a workflow where you went through every step and said, right, this is another aspect that you mentioned, we've not really explicitly said, right? But you need to know your own ways of working. Like you need to know what
Yeah.
you do when you
Yeah.
triage a bug. And if you can't write that down, AI ain't going to help you, right? If you
Yeah.
can't explain why a log file is a good log file or a screenshot's a good screenshot
Yeah.
or a title's a good title,
Yeah.
it ain't going to be able to help you. And I think that's going to be a big part of this process for a lot of people. Um, but yeah, so it can definitely help. And you mentioned something interesting, and like not sure if it's skills or terms or whatever the right language is for this, but I think testers or QEs are some of the best placed people to do some of this work, right?
Oh man,
Because a big, a big, and when I say this as well, like, and I mean this in like, I know
the
I've
best way
mentioned like, will
possible.
it improve quality, right?
Yeah.
But like I said, a lot of the initiatives that a lot of us have tried to do have not been able, they were not automatable, right? And we all know whether it's automated tests, automated pipelines, whatever, right? Adding automation into things is generally a useful approach, right? When done well. But now you can now automate some of those, like some of that, the initiatives that you want to do, and you can put them in place. But to do that, you need to know what good looks like. You need to think about oracles. Who knows about oracles in our industry?
I don't know, Rich. Who?
The unicorn testers out there, right?
Mhm,
Who knows
mhm,
what a good oracle is, right? When you
mhm.
get all these documents and you're trying to train these models, what makes a good document? What does good look like? What are the oracles that you could use to decide what good likes? When you're trying to write these prompts to get agents to do stuff, how are you going to properly write a good oracle to help it do what it's meant to do? It's we all
I
know these things based on words. So
yeah, I agree with you. I think there are going to be people listening to this who might, the objection or the pushback you might get is, well, and this is what I was trying to say before. Am I going to automate myself out of a job? And is that problematic? What would you say to that?
I don't think so because it's moved like someone needs to maintain all that knowledge, just the same as automated tests, right? Automated tests didn't do us out of a job, right?
Hmm.
Because they just helped to some extent. Um, and I think that no, I don't think so. I said the same on the last podcast, right? I expect a lot of this tooling, if it ever does materialize,
Hmm.
to slow down the hiring that companies do.
Hmm.
Like I think people theoretically should be able to do more with less,
Hmm.
or companies can do more with less.
Hmm.
Whether that proves to be true or not, who knows, right? And again, I'm not all in on the AI bandwagon, right? But I'm finding it useful when I use it.
Mm.
I don't want to say intelligently, right? But with thought, right? Not just blindly trusting its output.
Yeah.
So, I don't want to say no, but I do think there's going to be a lot more options for getting a lot of the knowledge that some people have in an LLM version, which is no substitute to having the person in the room, right? I would much rather have the person in the room, right? But if I can't have Vernon Richards, the testing expert, in my team
Hmm.
because he works for somebody else, but
Hmm.
I could have Richard Vernon, the agent, in my team, which has been
Yeah.
trained on all the stuff Vernon's ever written, said, and continue. Like, this is a product, right? It could be a product. You continue to push stuff into this LLM. You're
Hmm.
maintaining it for me. And now
Yeah.
I can have Vernon Richard, the testing expert LLM, in
Hmm.
my team, which I can use, again, not to say write me a strategy, but to critique my strategy or to help me do the job I'm doing. Again, I don't think we should be using AI to replace the work we do, but it can significantly help us. And I'm seeing, for me personally, I'm finding a new way of learning and I'm more confident with trying new technologies because I've found a good way of using these LLMs and agents to help me learn. I don't just say build it and give it to me. I say build it, explain to me why you've chosen this over that. Explain why you've chosen that pattern. What other patterns could they have used? And then I ask it, and then it says other patterns. And then I go to Google and I research those patterns. And then I come back.
Hmm.
I know nothing about these patterns, right? I don't even know what the technology we're using is in some cases. But it's a way that I can rapidly learn now and build at the same time. And yes, that's dangerous. I could make mistakes. I could release software with security holes in it, right? But if I have Saskia Cosplan's security agent somewhere in my
Yeah.
process, right?
Yeah.
And that's also part of my process. Again, I think there's ways to mitigate some of these challenges, just the same the way there is if you've got a team full of junior engineers. There's ways to mitigate the mistakes they might make, right? There's nothing new. It's just different. Like it's just different. And my main point was, I think there's opportunities with regards to quality to automate some of that stuff and to codify some of that stuff and take advantage of this technology in a way that I'm currently starting to lean towards. I think it could help. Is there negatives? Absolutely. But I think there's possibilities there. It could be really helpful. And I think testers, automators have all the skill set to build these workflows and build some of this technology because we know how to write prompts. We know what oracles are. We know what good looks like.
I'd go.
An automated workflow is the same as an automated test. You're coding steps, you're coding rules, you're coding decision trees. It's the same thing. It's just in a different tool. It's not in Selenium or Playwright. It's in whatever agent tool of your choice.
It almost feels like the meta skill that testers definitely have is, things like systems thinking and the ability to ask questions.
Yep.
I think that's. I think it's things of that nature. The ability to model. I agree. I've again. Obviously, I'm biased, so I generally have a positive outlook about these things, and probably are more on the excitement side whenever things like this happen. But I do just think, oh, so we have these tools, and now we're talking about, agentic tools are now the new hotness. But I still look at it and I say, I think we are in a good spot to leverage this, to leverage these things. I think maybe something that you and I could do by means of deliberate practice that we could bring back to the pod. So for example, I talked about using agents or some flavor of AI tool to help me with bug triage
Yep.
because I have a team that is suffering with that and doesn't who enjoys bug triage. I mean, come on, let's get real. But is there a way to just kind of start to leverage the tools, even if it isn't an agentic thing? Maybe it could just be a GPT. Just say, here,
Yeah.
look, I've tried to just codify it to some degree. Here's a bug. What do you think? I think we should go off
Absolutely.
and run some experiments, bring them back to the pod, and as much as we can say without getting fired, if we've run these experiments in the day job, kind of talk about, okay, here's what we did. We did this stuff. It was cool. Here's what we found. Here's what was difficult. I think that could be pretty sick, because I think at the moment, I think one of the criticisms with this topic, maybe across the board, is people are talking. A lot of people understand, like they get it, but they want some examples, and they want some examples that go a bit deeper and can talk more about, the complexities and the nuances and the the specifics instead of going high level. So maybe we should challenge each
Yeah,
other
definitely. Yeah.
to do that.
Oh
I think
yeah,
that could
just to be clear, in case anyone's in doubt, I am not saying this is definitely working or it's the best thing you should be doing and it's the future or anything like that at all. It's just I'm fortunate at the moment to get to experiment with some of this tooling,
Mm.
and I'm finding it useful and it's
Yeah,
inspiring.
man.
It's one of the things I always said about anything community content wise, right? It's triggering me to think. So
Yeah,
at the moment, and I'm using this podcast, as I said at the start, to share some rambles. I don't have any concrete, opinions. Apart
yeah,
from, I definitely do believe that testers are really well placed to take
yeah,
advantage
man.
of this new technology
Yeah,
in
same,
many, many ways. And
same.
especially the development of an agentic workflow or an agent workflow. It don't even have to be agentic, just an agent workflow. That
Mm.
task, that task is not that, but that job of breaking down, a procedure or an investigation into steps
Yep.
and then going to do this step accurately, what do you need to know? And then how can,
Yeah.
like, where do I get that knowledge from? Or
Mhm.
what data do I need? Is
Mm.
so indistinguishable from writing an automated test.
Yeah.
Um,
I
it's
agree.
just it's mad, like, and especially the people who have listened to me about automating testing for so long, like the act of building little tools to help you do your job is exactly the same as what you're doing for an agent. You're giving it little tools to help it do its job.
Agree.
Um, and it's scary how similar it is. And other roles definitely have some of the crossover with the skills that I think are needed. But
Mhm.
a high performing QE, especially one with strong technical skills, strong
Yep.
analytical skills,
Yep.
critical thinking, and then some element of coding, you're so prime. Like you're such a position to play with these things,
Yeah,
and
man.
just
I
see
agree.
what sticks for
I
sure.
agree.
Well, if you've got thoughts on, again, I'm trying to avoid specifically thoughts around just AI in general. It's like how have you been able to use it from an improving or sustaining or maintaining quality in your teams? And when I say quality, I mean full end to end cycle of quality, because we see a lot in the LinkedIn. If you open LinkedIn now every day, it's all automated test tool, this agent test tool, that, right? I get that. There's lots of money being spent there, but what other parts of the quality life cycle, quality
That's
engineering
exactly it.
approaches can
That's exactly
utilize
it.
this
That's
technology?
exactly it. When we talk about shifting in all the directions, as I like to say, what does that mean? Like, what experiments and what gains are you seeing? How are you leveraging the tools to do some of this stuff? I mean, I think Paul Coles. I think I shared a link to some of
Yeah.
his stuff in the shows last time. He springs to mind. He's doing some interesting stuff around feature files, I believe, and that could be fun to look at. So,
Yeah.
but what else
And
is
one of the
going on out
things,
there?
yeah, there's so much. And the way they force you to reflect, I just love. We've mentioned reflection a lot in this, and I think with a lot of the really good QEs that I know spend a lot of time of reflecting. And again, I think the act of trying to teach what is essentially the dumbest robot you've ever come across how to be 2% as good as you, as good at quality engineering as you are, requires so much reflection,
Mm,
to understand why are you as good as you are? Like, what have you learned? What have you done? What have you what how where have all your oracles and knowledge come from to make you
yeah.
as good as you are? And
Yep.
how can you even start to codify a fraction of that into something that could
Mm,
help you?
mm,
Which is why joking about a Vernon and Richard bot, right? But again, there's not enough time. But imagine, I think Marit tried it actually, because Marit was very consistent with
shit.
her blogs so over the years. Like,
Mm,
imagine if you did actually blog every day or every week for the last 10 years. You almost have it already to feed it in. Like, it would be incredible.
that's
But
interesting though, because see, man, we need to finish this episode because if you fed it the information, 2015 Marit might not have the same perspective as 2025 Marit. So how would you
you
factor
you
that
you
in?
you're coding guardrails. So into the prompts when you're asking it, when you're giving it the ability to do stuff, you would
Hmm.
code in guardrails to tell it to favor
More
2020
recent.
Marit over 2015 Marit, or
Mm,
you would tell it to favor talk abstracts over, talk transcripts over other stuff. Like you would put in
mm,
all these guardrails.
hmm.
Again, the people call them different things, but within your prompt, as you write your prompt engineering, context engineering, whatever the fancy
Just
term
gonna
is at the
say, would it
moment,
be the
right?
context? I don't know the terminology
Yeah,
either, but I know
well,
what you're getting at.
yeah, really, it's probably more of a guardrail, as in you would say start with recent information first, or
Okay.
because they all work on goals, right? So it's just trying to satisfy your goals. So it will mostly work, not top down as such, right? But if you told it to work in a certain way,
Mm,
once it's got its goal, it would come out and give you
go
an
off and do
answer.
that. Okay.
Um, but the thing with the just one subtle difference with a lot of these knowledge based kind of agents we're seeing is you
Mm,
force it to reference the material that it's getting its answer from. So it's not like ChatGPT where it just gives you an answer. I know sometimes it gives you links and stuff, but
Wow.
here we're
ChatGPT.
we're explicitly asking it to give you the link, the actual document that you uploaded to train it with. What was
Mhm.
it that it read? Because then also it allows you to cross-reference and go, "You've completely
Correct.
misinterpreted that blog post." Like,
Mhm.
so that's the subtle difference with the support agent. And I don't mean supporting customer support. I mean an agent that's supporting you doing a
You.
task
Yes. Correct.
versus an
Yeah. I
agent
got it.
that's solo doing a task on its own
Yeah.
and just telling you it's done it or not. That's again, there's very subtle differences to the way we build these things to achieve that. But yeah,
I
let's
I
wrap it
I
up.
am now I am now very interested in thinking about how these tools are gonna impact all of us who are doing knowledge
Absolutely.
work of whatever flavor and description. But this has been a good chat.
Yep,
Let us know what you think. Don't forget to like and share. Because how many
absolutely.
subscribers do we have now, Rich? Is it Operation 400 subscribers? I think that's what it
I
is.
don't. You know what? I have not been looking because, like you said, we've only been on a little mini break.
We
Let's
have.
have a look. 19.
I dig
We
it.
need to
That's
step up our. We need to do something, mate. We need a plan.
we
Anyone know any agents?
yeah, we can get a load of bot listeners. There you go. Just to boost the numbers.
Yeah,
But
do you
yeah,
know what? Jokes aside, there's absolutely nothing stopping us from building an NAN agentic flow for promoting our podcast. Because
that's another project we could have then maybe.
yeah, we could probably do that, and it would be quite fun to see if it actually how well it did. Or we should start spamming LinkedIn with random crap. that's that's
Yeah,
not good.
consider this your heads up for link spammage. Please do not unfollow. We're just
Yeah,
experimenting.
yeah,
Yeah, we'll
cool.
give you a further heads up. But yeah, thank you for tuning in. Please share this with folks. Anything I've mentioned, anything Richard has mentioned, anything that seems relevant, we will include it in the show notes. We need to remember to add a link to the show notes in the YouTube description or whatever description so it get hoovered up into everywhere else. Because I had
Tony Bruce told me off for doing that. Did he tell
one
you
of
off
our
as well?
friends, Tony. Yeah, he told me off, and then he told
Yeah,
me off for not responding to
yeah.
his telling off. And then by the time I'd responded, you'd already responded. So if you're listening to this, Tony, soz mate. Yeah, I said my reply to Tony.
I put tracking on that link. He's not clicked it. I'm joking. I didn't.
My my reply to Tony was something like, "You know what, mate? I can see that Rich has added a link to the show notes now, so I'll make sure that we add that to the podcast checklist as soon as we've created the checklist."
Nice, nice,
Oh my god.
nice.
Anyway,
All right.
we'll leave it.
Well, goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me.